Kia ora, I'm Cathy Sullivan, Editor-in-Chief for CIO and CSO here in APAC. And my guest today is Richard Fitch, Connectivity Practice Lead from Spark, and Patrick Balmer, the Managed Security Service Provider Lead from Spark. We're talking all things SASE. So we'll kick things off with yourself, Patrick. Firstly, what is SASE and why is it gaining so much attention, especially in the cybersecurity landscape?
Good afternoon and thanks for having us. SASE really is a architecture that combines connectivity and security into a single cloud platform. The reason why this has gained so much growth over the last few years is really the move to cloud. Traditionally we've seen applications and data sitting in data centers. So this has all changed now with the move to cloud. These data centers no longer housing the applications, they're sitting in the cloud. And also with COVID and remote work, we've seen people working from anywhere now.
So when it comes to connectivity then, Richard, can you tell me what role it plays in terms of SASE?
Well, if you think at a basic level, connectivity is really around how do we connect our users and devices to the applications that they're looking to consume. And as Patrick said, with that whole application landscape changing and the apps moving from on-premise data centers into the cloud and actually into a hybrid style of environments, the real focus is how do we securely, reliably connect our users to those applications. And so connectivity has this kind of underlying enablement, if you like, for making sure that we're delivering the best possible experience to users and devices connecting to those apps. So it's kind of the plumbing. It's a little unsexy, but it's the plumbing that makes everything happen, and that needs to be well engineered and well architected to make sure that we're delivering the best possible experience for users.
Absolutely. Now, look, Patrick, you mentioned the rise in remote work and obviously the adoption of cloud services. So how does SASE address these challenges then of remote work and that increased use of cloud services?
Well, as I mentioned before, the applications are not sitting in the data center; they're sitting in the cloud. And if a user has to remote access back into an office and then trombone back into the cloud, it's just not good use of the technology. Also, those users would be sitting in a coffee shop and they're going directly to the cloud to access their applications. So we've had to change the way we do things and by architecting a cloud platform to be able to protect users and no matter where they work.
And how does connectivity feed into that?
Well, I mean, when you had the traditional the traditional model was connecting users via their branch network into a centralized sort of data center and with upstream internet and the security controls applied there, as Patrick said, we're now dispersing them. And so the connectivity layer now looks like not only connectivity but an element of security, and then that needs to work collaboratively with the cloud security controls as well. So when the users are on-premise in the data center, they get a great on-premise in their branch, they get a great experience connecting to the apps. And equally, when they're in the coffee shop, they need as great an experience as we can deliver to them when they're on an unwashed internet connection, if you like. So.
Now, speaking of security, zero trust there's been increased importance placed on it in recent years. So then, can you explain, Patrick, I guess, the role of zero trust in the SASE framework?
Yeah, sure. Zero trust is a security framework where every user is, whether they're inside the organization or whether they're outside, are authenticated and validated for posture before they connect to the applications. An example I like to use around this is if a doctor is working in a hospital, they're walking around with an iPad, it's a corporate device, there's context applied to where the location is and the device that the doctor uses. So they're able to access patient records. But if that doctor moved to for example, a coffee shop, and then used a personal device, then the context would change and the zero trust model would kick in and then not allow that doctor to access those patient records because it's not a safe environment.
Any further thoughts on that?
No, I think, I mean, zero trust is, as Patrick said, is kind of a framework, and it's an objective state, and there's a number of ways to kind of get there, but we are seeing that shape. Many of the RFPs and things that we're seeing in the market have got these concepts now showing up. So people are actively thinking about them and trying to figure out what's the path to get there, and are they missing any tricks along the way, and who do they go to help guide them on that journey? Because when you think about it, the way that customers buy now is quite different to the way that they used to buy from the old service integrator space. Our customers are well read. They tend to understand and have articulated the problem, but they don't necessarily know what the right solution for them might be, and then that's why they need to come to us and get some great insight and some guidance. From leveraging organisations that have been on that journey for a little while, and have got the bruises and the scars to talk about. So that can be really useful.
Another example of zero trust is in the old way of working, when we would remote access into our VPNs into our organisation, it was a trust all method. So we would VPN in, we would get authenticated, and then we had access to everything in that organisation. The zero trust model has changed that. So now we only, when we connect, we only have access to applications that we should have access to, and then it also checks for the posture. Are we from the right device? Do we have the right posture on that device to be able to access the applications we need to?
So speaking of the old ways then, what impact does SASE have, I guess, on traditional network architecture, and why should organizations consider adopting it?
Oh, that's probably one for me. I think so one part of the SASE piece is SD-wan, so the software-defined networking component. And it's fair to say that, based on the research that we've done in this market, New Zealand hasn't leapt into SD-wan in the same vigour that we've seen in offshore markets. And there's a number of reasons for that. One of the advantages we have is that the quality of our networks and the cost performance of our networks is such that there hasn't quite been that catalyst for change. But with the broader adoption of cloud and applications, SaaS-based applications, and the hyperscalers coming to New Zealand is now starting to speed up that approach of, okay, well, our traditional connectivity architecture is not really going to work for us in that new model. We need to enable internet access from our branches so that our users are getting the best experience when they're connecting to cloud-based apps. And then we also need to implement some security controls on that connectivity edge to make sure that the right hygiene is in place to securely allow those applications to flow out, and then talk to Patrick's cloud-based security controls. So connectivity again has now become this packet forwarding capability that leverages a number of underlying access technologies and brings more choice and satellite and mobile and other bits and pieces into play, and then allowing those applications to flow out onto the internet at the earliest possible convenience to then resolve to the cloud controls and the applications they're looking to consume. So sort of again, the role of connectivity is the plumbing. It's changed a bit, but its basic premise is still there. How do we forward packets as quickly as we can into the right place so that they can be dealt with and the user's experience can be maximised.
And Patrick, any other thoughts in terms of security, I guess, when the impact of SASE on traditional network architecture?
Yeah, I think if you look at the traditional side of the architecture, there was a lot of point solutions that protected a data center. We would have a firewall, and we would have a proxy, and we would have all these different controls stacked on top of each other. With SASE, it's consolidated these controls, and it's consolidated them in the cloud. So it's just being able to add that benefit to organizations to have that consolidated view of the security vendors.
Now, look, all change is hard. So what challenges do you think organizations face when they are going down the SASE route, and how can these challenges be addressed? Would you like to take that one?
Yeah, I'm going to start with the security challenge of adopting a zero trust model is something different that organizations traditionally, had to deal with. So the principles of zero trust is something that they've had to change. It's a bit of it's you can't get a technology to help you go on your zero trust journey. It's a framework and consulting, and there's different ways to start. So that's if I say to someone, your zero trust journey, don't try and boil the ocean on this. Start somewhere small, get some quick wins, implement something like zero trust network access. That's a starting point to a zero trust journey.
And Richard, any other challenges and how organizations can address them?
Well, one challenge that we come across quite a bit is the convergence of network and security into an integrated sort of framework. And for many of our customers, particularly our enterprise and government customers, that's bringing two disparate domains together. And I wouldn't call it warring factions, but they are not necessarily that cohesive and aligned. And we've had to make changes in our own business around how we bring our network and security functions together to deliver to the SASE promise, if you like. And we're having to spend quite a bit of time with customers bridging the gap between those two elements. And it's even practical things like whose budget does it come from? Is this a network plus security, or a security with some network functions? And it's not an easy one for many of our customers to navigate. And that's one thing that really comes to mind. I think the other one is, and this probably separates the top tier, the larger customers. The next piece is this SASE offers a bit more of a democratized kind of technology set for many clients. So if our corporate customers have traditionally struggled to bring or to consume or even get access to some of these elements, they're now able to bring those together and get a kind of cohesive piece. But that's quite a steep learning curve for many of our corporate customers. How do we gain and leverage and get the best benefit from some more sophisticated security controls that previously were difficult to obtain or expensive to obtain? So really depends where you are on that journey and which market you settle in as to which what are the challenges that you're going to face.
Now, we love an acronym in the industry. So can you tell me what is the difference between SASE and SSE? Who would like to take that one?
Oh, I think that's definitely a Patrick question.
Well, I think the big difference, think of it, SSE is just a subset of SASE. SSE is the security side of SASE. So when you take the security controls that exist as part of SSE, which would be your traditional cloud web gateway, or your DLP or CASB or firewall as a service, that's part of the SSE. Where SASE is really bringing in the connectivity and the security together. So some organizations might start their SASE journey and they might just go down the SSE portion by implementing a cloud web security or doing some type of DLP project.
And finally, where can people go to learn more?
I think, we take a consultative approach to SASE. So we've got a team of professional services and consultants who work with our customers. We understand the industry they're in. We look at on what part of the journey they're currently in, because a lot of organizations have already started doing this. So come to Spark, talk to us, talk to our consultants, and we can help you.
Great stuff. Patrick Balmer and Richard Fitch, thank you so much for joining us on CIO today.
Thank you.